This morning we have a wonderful special guest who will be sharing some thoughts on how we can be more equipped to manage and to cope with challenging times, because we build up this wonderful thing called resilience. And I'm really excited to hear from her shortly. But just before we do, I just want to say welcome to everyone again back to Transformational Tuesday. It's a place, this cafe is a place where we can think well, live well in order to be well. That's the quest, that's the endeavor. It's for us to manage our minds, then we manage our behaviors, and then we can actually map the distance we've traveled. We can look back at our lives and just say, well done, Mike, well done, you made it, you done well. And that will be a great testimonial because we've passed the test. I was thinking about something today. When I was younger, I used to play a lot of football. I loved it, I had a ball on the way to school. I was playing football, got to school early to play football, played at lunch, at break time, lunchtime, after school. And then when we got home, we played a bit of school football. And I thought about this and I thought, what's the most embarrassing thing that can happen whilst playing football? And I thought there's probably 3 or 4 things. Well, one of them is you can miss a penalty. That's embarrassing. The second one is you can miss an open goal. That's embarrassing. But there was a time in the 70s and 80s where people were running along the pitch and people pull down the shorts. Now that's super embarrassing. That's embarrassing. But I think one of the biggest embarrassments is when you score an own goal. With conviction. You know, not the ones where the ball bounces off you and it goes in and it's like, but it's when you go to clear the ball and you kick it with all your might and it skews off and goes in your own goal. That's super embarrassing. But what I've realized in life is sometimes we score own goals, but yet we win the game. We still win the game. We may lost that moment, but we still win the game of life. And I'm so excited that we've tuned in this morning to get some strategies on how we win. We still win in spite of it all. Even if you feel like you're losing, you win. And sometimes I wonder if this thing is so set up for me that in spite of it all, I win. And that may be rooted somewhere in my subconscious mind. It may be something I've processed. It may be spiritual. It may be a connection of all of those things. But innately and genuinely, I believe in the end, I win. And for me, that helps preserve some sanity. It helps drive my well-being. It helps me push through difficult vicissitudes in life. Because there's a saying that I heard in the Caribbean. A man, I won't say it in their vernacular, but this is it. A man born to be hung can't drown. Think about it. If you're born to be hung, you can't drown. And so there's some stuff in life that gets thrown at you. And this morning, I want to figure out what is that fortitude, what is that stuff that helps us just keep going, to get up the next day and say, you know what, I'm born to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to resist the opportunity to give in. And that's where I think this wonderful term of resilience comes in. So I think it would be really lovely to just get straight into our wonderful special guest, rather than hearing me rabbit on. But that was my opening statements, just to get a sense of this fortitude that's required to just keep going, even when you don't feel like going. All right? And so with that said, it gives me great great pleasure to welcome our special guest, Christiana, this morning. Welcome to the Wellbeing Cafe. You've come highly recommended, and I think you've come at such a wonderful time where, you know, there is so much chaos in our world. Some of that chaos is amplified because of COVID-19. We've talked about this last week. Should we go out? Should we stay in? Kids are getting marked down in their education through no fault of their own. There's an algorithm at work programming the system, and it's making us feel bad. But yet we're being forced to send our kids to school in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks, guys?
Yeah.
3 weeks. So there's a lot of tension going on. There's a lot of pulling and pushing, and we don't know often where to stand. How do we keep our minds stable? How do we keep our minds focused? How do we build this wonderful thing called resilience? So with that said, Christiana, welcome. And I would like to hand over to you so you could share some thoughts. And if you feel that you want some banter, you can throw questions back at me and I can open it up to the room. But more importantly, I'd like to give you 20 minutes to share some thoughts with us, lead us in how we can think better, live better and be better through resilience. Can we all give Christiana some thumbs up in anticipation for some good information? Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mike, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Ricky, for inviting me to join you. Wow. Okay. So I wanted to talk about resilience through life storms, because I found out that inevitably a storm or storms is something that you are going to experience as long as you're living and breathing. At some point in your life, you will go through a storm. So it's not about whether you will go through a storm or I'm never going to go through a storm. It's the fact that you definitely will go through a storm as long as you're living and breathing. And the storm is not really the issue, because we will experience it. It's about how do we process it? How do we go through it so that it does not destroy us? How do we go through it so that we can maintain a sense of wholeness? And how do we bounce back through that situation really quickly? So I wanted to start off by just talking about resilience again. So what's resilience? I'll read out what the Oxford Dictionary defines resilience as. It defines it as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. So toughness. Resilience is not the absence of conflict or challenges. It's the capacity to maintain wholeness. Now, this is me saying that, not the Oxford Dictionary. It's your ability to maintain wholeness in the midst of your challenges so that you bounce back quickly. What I have found when people go through challenges, when people go through situations that try them, and when I use a storm, I use it metaphorically. I use it to define any situation that impacts you so much physically, psychologically, financially, spiritually, so much so that it affects other areas of your life. So a storm is different from regular everyday inconveniences. It's something that has a significant impact on you. So what I have found when we all go through storms is that you can respond in one of 5 ways. The first is that you can choose to hide. That is to say, when you're going through a challenge and something that shakes you so, that impacts you so much, is the fact that you can choose to just hide. You stop participating in your life. You stop actively being enthusiastic about life. You sign out, you check out. There's no enthusiasm about life. It's kind of the woe is me story that begins to play. This always happens to me. You know, I'm the one who always gets the relationship that breaks up. I'm the one who would end up with a child who is not, doing well. I'm the one who will be later from work. And when that happens, when you begin to play that narrative, when you begin to play that story, you find out that you could start hiding from life. You check out, you don't engage, you're not enthusiastic, you're not moving forward. And that's kind of your own way of responding to the storm that you're going through. Now, it's not a healthy way, but it's one of the ways that I have found that people respond to storms. Or you can choose another option, which is to numb. Now, the flyer introduced me as a speaker and as a life coach, which is absolutely what I do. I help people find their voices, my clients. I help them stop playing small so that they can achieve and create a bold and successful life they love. But the other part to what I do is that I work within addiction. And so some of my clients suffer or are having drug or alcohol substance abuse. And so I work with them through a recovery process. One, to find recovery, and then two, to maintain their recovery from substance use. And one of the things I found is that with a lot of these clients who are locked in substance misuse, they numb a lot. So they numb because they don't want to feel the pain, whether it's the pain of the loss of a loved one, whether it's the pain that they've lost their child, or whether it's the pain that they are not living up to the standard expected of them. And so substance misuse comes into play. First, it starts with just dabbling in it just to take the edge off. But then they begin to numb as a result so that they take the pain off. And that's what I found that we tend to do sometimes when we're going through a storm, is that we shut down. We don't want to feel it. So we don't talk about the problem. We don't ask for help because all we're trying to do is to self-protect, self-preserve, because we're trying to numb all of that pain and the emotion that comes with it, which again is an inevitable part of going through a storm, is the fact that it will hurt. You will experience emotions that are difficult to process. Now that is a second, one of the ways people respond to it. But another way people respond is by escaping. Escaping, not again, kind of like the first step, which is hiding, but escaping is the fact that instead of dealing with the situation, you find other ways to distract yourself so that you don't have to address the situation on hand. Is the fact that you probably spend mindless hours just scrolling through Facebook instead of having the difficult conversation that you need to move your situation forward. You find yourself just getting excessively involved in other people's lives and in other activities, whether it be if you go to church, well, maybe it's just putting yourself so much into church that you're not actually taking care of the situation at hand, or whether it's the fact that you just turn to work. You work and work and work and become a workaholic, not so much because you love what you're doing, but because you don't want to have to face or deal with the problems that are at home or what you're going through. And so again, that's not healthy. Or you can deny. A denial, again, is a form of self-preservation, is simplifying the process, making it feel like it's not such a big deal, you know? Instead of addressing and coming to terms and owning the truth that, well, maybe your child is making bad decisions that could end, see him being incarcerated. But no, that's not true. He's just been himself. He's just been okay, because you don't want to have to admit the fact that there is a problem here. Instead of admitting the fact that the relationship is on rocky ground and maybe doing what you need to do to address it. No, there's no problem. We're good. I'm just speaking my mind. That's what I'm doing. So again, that's denial. So I found that the first 4 steps I detailed are ways that we can respond to our storms. But we can also, the 5th way, we can also turn it around and we can use it as fuel to achieve something that is very different, something that we've not achieved before. I've had situations where some clients of mine who had really difficult childhood, and I've seen both sides of the spectrum, where some people have had really difficult and challenging childhood, and they use it as an example or an excuse to be mean, to just hate life, and to just not care about what happens and not even be there for their own children. And then in the same vein, I have seen people who took that same experience of not having a good childhood and they turned it around and said, you know what, I want to be there for my daughter. I want to be there for my son. I want to be a better parent. I want to be a better father. And so they use all of the adversity and all of the pain they went through, and they turned it around as fuel to say, I am going to be what I did not see. And so you can choose that. So those are the 5 ways which I see that when we can respond to storms. The first 4, if you choose the first 4, it's going to keep you locked in a cycle of pain. So if you're choosing to hide, if you're choosing to numb, if you're choosing to escape or to deny the situation, then it's just going to leave you in a place where you are locked in a cycle of pain or challenge, where you're repeating the same situation over and again, and you're not able to move forward. You're not able to bounce back or find that resilience that you need to just create the life that you want. But if you choose to turn it into fuel, into power, and turn it around, then that can help you bounce back. Okay, so I've listed out 4 things, and I just wanted to know, did anyone have any question, or can anyone relate to any of this? Or I don't know, Mike, is that okay to ask? If anyone has a question or anything you can relate to, if not, I'll just go on to the next part of it.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so I was talking about the fact that if you respond in one of the 4 ways, that you're just going to keep yourself locked in the cycle. So the big question is then, how do we go through our challenges? How do we go through it in such a way that we can still be whole, and in the way that it does not destroy us, but we can come out the other side a lot quicker, and we can actually come out better than we were? Here's the big part and the big deal, is the fact that you have to make a choice. You have to decide that you are not going to be held back by your storm. You're not going to be held back, and you're not going to remain in that cycle. And why do I say that's one of the first things? Because if you choose to let life happen to you, you will always see yourself as a victim. But if you choose instead to see that, you know what, all of this is happening for me as opposed to me, then that's going to help you change perspective. Irrespective of whatever the advice is, irrespective of how good the information is, unless you're willing to make a choice to say, you know what, I'm not going to let the situation destroy me. And this is something I share with my clients who I coach. No matter how good the session is, no matter what the takeaway is, no matter what the change of perspective is, unless you make a decision to say, I'm not going to be a victim of this situation, whether you've lost your job, whether the relationship has just fallen apart, whether your plans for 2020, none of it has come to pass, whatever the situation is, when you choose a position to say, I'm not going to let this hold me back, or I'm going to find a way, that's when you find that you're able to bounce back quickly. So what are some steps that can help you? First, acceptance. Acceptance is not the fact that you are okay with a situation. Acceptance is coming to the truth and the fact that this is where you're at. I've just lost a job. Okay, this is where you're at. Okay, again, just using the example of the relationship. Maybe the relationship did not quite work out. It's coming to terms with, okay, this is where I'm at. It didn't work out. It's over. He's not coming back. She's not coming back. That's acceptance. So the first step is for you to accept that this is where you're at. Whether the pandemic has affected you so negatively, if you've lost your savings, if you've lost income, if your situation has changed so dramatically, come to terms with, this is where I am at. And from this point now, how do I start planning for the next phase? And take it from there. And then the second step is to let go of habits and associations that don't serve you. So where have you been? And I'm going to talk about this with some of my clients who I work with, in terms, again, using the example of addiction. So some of my clients who have done fantastically well in their recovery, and they have achieved a lot, and they've come 6 months clean. They've not used any substance, and they're doing great. You're doing well. And we're talking about next steps. And then you hear them think, oh, you know what, but, I've got to continue to hang out with the people I hang out with. Because if I don't, they're going to think I'm big-headed. They're going to think I'm better than them. They're going to start saying what's up with me and all of that. And I come back to, hey, if you're going to make progress, if you want to maintain the recovery you've started, you cannot go back to old associations. You cannot go back to the places that pulled you down. You've got to now choose new associations. You've got to make new friends. You've got to now hang out in new places. So whatever it is for you, it's about assessing where you've been, what the situation and the challenges have been, and what new habits do you now need to create? What new associations do you now need to put in place for yourself? Okay, and so let's go to the third bit of it. Finding a new way to be. What are some things that you've not been able to do before that you can actually start doing now? What are some things that you wanted to explore that, well, your job did not, maybe you've lost your job. And so previously there were things you wanted to try out, things you wanted to start up, and you were not able to do that because your job did not give you that time. Well, this is a time to explore new ways to be. Follow your curiosity. What is it that you've been really excited about? Follow that part. Try it out. Explore it. What are the things that the relationship did not allow you space and time to do and to be? Well, this is your opportunity. Explore that. Take that new path and go with it. And then you also want to be willing to be vulnerable. And this is a critical part. Your willingness to be vulnerable, your willingness to ask for help, your willingness to just say, you know what, it's hurting. I'm in a tough place right now. That's so important. How often do we ask for help when we are in a difficult situation? How often are we able to talk to somebody when we're going through a trial, when we're going through a rough time? A number of times we try to keep it all together. We try to look good. We still try to keep the same face, like everything is together, like we've got it all together, we're good, and we don't want to ask for help because we can interpret asking for help as a sign of weakness. We can interpret asking for help as maybe something is wrong with us, we're broken, and we don't want to show that we're broken. We still just want to keep it together, especially for the men, asking for help. You know, that's something that I have found that men find harder to do compared with women. And so this period, when you want to bounce back, asking for help is so critical. Now, I'm not saying ask for help from any kind of person, you know, and just tell your business to everybody. No, it's about finding people who are close to you, people you can trust, people within your circle, and talking to them about what's going on. And let them know what you're feeling, what's going on for you, and what help and support you need. You'll be able to get over a difficult time much faster when you ask people to support you and help you through that journey, as opposed to when you try to do it on your own. And as part of asking for help, again, is to actually, if you're not already part of a supportive community, it's to build one. Build a supportive community. Belong to a supportive community. And I have found so much that this helps. It helps you, one, in terms of asking for help, but it gives you a space where you can go and be vulnerable. It gives you a space where you can go and talk about what's going on for you without judgment. And so if you don't have one, think about starting one yourself. And I say this particularly because I remember once when I had a situation, I mean, my brother suffered a psychosis. And I remember my mom calling me from Nigeria, and she said, you know what, it's late. Your brother is not home. He left home at about 1 a.m. and we don't know what's happening. We don't know where he is and we can't reach him. And Nigeria is a little different from the United Kingdom. As a young man, you don't just roam the street at 1 a.m. You have vigilantes, and they could, for any reason, just grab you, arrest you, you know, kill you, whatever. And so I don't often get scared, but I remember when my mom called me, I panicked and I thought, whoa, you know, what am I going to do? And so I thought, I need to pray about this because I'm a person of faith and I like to pray. And so I thought, I need to pray about this, but I need to get people. I need to talk to somebody about what's going on. I was really, really scared. And luckily for me, I belong to a group of sisters, a group of strong women where we can talk together, where we can just pray. And so I called them and I said, hey, listen, this is what's going on. And straight away, they got together and we prayed about the situation. Thankfully, he came back, he was okay, he got sorted. But for me, in that moment where I needed help, and it was such a breaking point, I was glad that I had a community of people that I could call up at night and say, you know what, something's not going down right, and I need your support to make that happen. And so it's so important that you have this community, whether it's one person or two people, or if you don't have it, then think about forming your own. Find one or two people that you can have as a community that you can get together with. And then finally, think about building structures that support you going forward. So if I use the example about the fact that maybe you've gone through a period of loss, you've lost a loved one, you've lost your job or something, and we've gone through the steps that are outlined, you know, the first of all, where we talked about just a willingness to be vulnerable, a willingness to ask for help, where I talked about just being able to move on and create what you want. The final bit I want to talk about is your ability to create the structures, and whether that's, okay, you know what, I'm going to put a routine in place. I'm going to have a routine where I exercise. I incorporate exercising as part of my daily or bi-weekly activity so that it supports me mentally, it supports me physically. I'm going to incorporate a period of praying and fasting every week if you're spiritual, if you're a person of faith, and you can do that and incorporate that into your schedule. I'm going to incorporate a period where I exercise. Maybe every so often I go to the gym or I take walks. Incorporate that. I'm going to have a time with family where I hang out with family. It's about making conscious effort and putting conscious structures in place, not just, oh, okay, you know what, it's going to happen today. I'll catch up with so-and-so today. I'll catch up with so-and-so tomorrow. No, it's about consciously building those things and putting it as a routine and a structure to support you going forward. And when you apply all of these steps together, you will find that if you're going through a challenge, you'll be able to keep yourself whole and sound and grounded. Because again, resilience is not the absence of a storm or challenges, like I mentioned. The very fact that you're being resilient, and we're talking about resilience, is the fact that you're going to have challenges. So it's not the absence, but it's about how do we go through the situation, whatever it is, and still maintain wholeness, and still find a way to bounce back of it quickly, find a new job again, you know, build a new relationship again, address a situation with a child. How do you go through that? Ask for help. And primarily, that's just what I wanted to share so far on just finding your way through the storms of life.
Wow, thank you, Christiana. Can we all give her a wonderful round of applause?
Thank
Christiana, I take it you've been in all of our sessions previously, because everything you've talked about is just correlates so nicely with what we've been sharing over the last 5, nearly 6 months. And you've summarized it eloquently. Thank you for that. I'm just wondering, Christiana, if you could help amplify this a bit more, because sometimes when we give out statements of support or encouragement, we often view the client or the individual or the corporate congregation or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes our brain thinks they are going through a situation. Mm-hmm. But what I'm realizing, people are going through complex, integrated circumstances where someone may be ill and they've lost a job and the relationship's broken out and they have no money to buy food and they're losing their home and they crashed the car. It's the depth of that complexity that I would like you to help us fathom. How do I dig in there to think about some of those components you've mentioned that's going to equip me to form new habits, perhaps, or even feel strong enough to process what's really going on, to have a conversation with someone. There's a number of steps you've made. How do we do it when everything, and I mean for some people, even in this cafe, it's everything has gone wrong?
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. I think the first step, because I would use this illustration of spilled milk, right? It's kind of like, now it's all happened. Everything's gone wrong. It's happened. There's nothing we can or you can do about it. The person, the individual can do about it. So firstly, give yourself permission to grieve. You gotta grieve. There's no trying to hold it together. There's no trying to be strong, like, I'm gonna phase it through, or no, first of all, grieve. It hurts and it sucks and it's just not fair. That's the first place. Just allow yourself the opportunity to grieve and come to that point that this is not fair. That's point number one, because there should always be a grieving process. If you don't grieve the pain, you only max it up, and then it's gonna find a way to escape in other areas, and it may come out as aggression, it may come out as bitterness, it may come out as violence, it may come out as just depression. So if you don't grieve, that pain is gonna find a way to just leak out somewhere through your life. So first of all, grieve. It's not fair that it happened. And then two, once you've done past grieving, it's okay, this is where I am at. Acceptance. It's messed up. The milk spilled. I've lost a job. Life's just crap right now. But this is where I am at. And that's the process. I find that acceptance is such a springboard for you to be able to heal. When you accept that this is what it is. And again, acceptance does not mean that you make it okay. Acceptance does not mean that you give it permission to go on. Acceptance is just coming to terms and with the reality that this is where I'm at and everything is messed up right now. And because when you don't accept it, you will constantly be fighting it. You'll be in conflict and fighting it, and nothing good comes from a place of conflict because you're just going to be going back and forth. So it's accepting that this is what the situation is, and then begin to find ways where you can get help. Who can you talk to? Who can point you in the right direction? What are some baby steps? And baby steps are key, are important. What are some baby steps you can start to take to make a difference and to move you from where you are at? It's not about trying to think, okay, you know what, how can I rebuild again? How can I build my life all over again and build a mansion and do, It's just, okay, let me ask for help. And then what are some baby steps I can begin to take? What change can I make? What can I start to do? Can I enroll in a program? Maybe think about getting a new certification or a diploma or a certificate somewhere, but maybe I can enroll in a program or something. Maybe I can volunteer somewhere and start somewhere. Maybe I can get in touch with so-and-so, and just tell them what's going on and find a way to get support. Who can I call? It's about just thinking about how you can be resourceful and just start with baby steps. And those really will be my key. When you do those steps and add consistency to it, that will be key, because if you keep moving in the direction of baby steps, if you keep talking to the people who will support you, your supportive structures, and if you just keep going with that one step at a time, eventually you are going to gain momentum and you will find a new way of being, and you will find things that you probably did not know existed in this new paradigm that you're in. And that will definitely be my step. But never take it away from yourself that, hey, if at any point it gets overwhelming, stop, grieve again, cry if you need to. Don't think at any point, I've got to be over this. I've got to be stronger than this. I've got to go past this. If you're moving and at some point it gets overwhelming and the emotions are, taking over, stop, grieve, be real with yourself, and then get back again on that. And that's really my step to rebuilding.
Wow, Christiana, you definitely have been in our sessions. We've had in total probably 6 sessions on grief, and it's been phenomenal. It is such a powerful tool. I've got one more question before I open it up to everyone else, and it's around the support networks. It's about finding someone you could share your storm with, share your experiences, and if you don't have someone, perhaps build your own. The question I think I'm hearing everyone ask is, what about when that support network lets you down? We heard of a scenario last week where someone in confidence went to their church, said how they were feeling, and then some next group was praying about it. but their confidence was breached.
Yeah.
So, you know, what happens when the team you've selected to share your deepest trauma with lets you down? How do you bounce back?
Ooh, okay, yeah. I would say it's coming back just to the fact that accepting, accepting. I mean, do you know what? I wish I could give you a silver bullet. I wish I could give you a quick pill to say, you know what, this makes everything go away. But the truth about life is that a lot of times things that we get blindsided by some things. We didn't see it coming and it knocks us out, you know, or we expect, and we may have actually put in the work to make something happen positively, but somehow things don't actually go the way that we want. I have come to find out that when you get into a mind space where you're willing to accept what the situation is, whatever it is that you're going through. Now, it's not a case that you're not going to talk about the pain, you're not going to bring whoever, you know, the people in particular to say, hey, you know, you're not going to call them to attention to say, that was not right. That's not the situation. You can talk about that, but it's coming to terms with the fact that it's crazy. It's not fair what happened, but here's where I'm at. And maybe just assess the people that you the people in your group, the group of people you talk to. Had they earned your trust enough for you to actually disclose that much to them? And how much do you want to disclose to who? And the people you're bringing into your network, have they earned the right? And kind of when I was talking about building a network, one of the things I said was, you don't just talk to any and anybody. And I imagine that was not just anybody, the person she spoke to confidentially. But it's important in building a network that these are people who have earned the right to your trust. These are the people who have earned the right to confidentiality, who you can talk to about deep stuff. Otherwise, if they haven't earned that right, you're going to find very quickly that your business is out there, which is kind of what I talked about when my brother suffered psychosis. I couldn't just talk to anybody, even though I wanted to just call people to stand with me and pray with me and tell them what's going on. I couldn't just talk to anybody. And so I thought, okay, who can I call? Who can I trust with my business and something that is this important and confidential to me? And I thought, okay, yeah, this group of sisters, I can trust them. And I was just planning to talk to them about it and say, you know what, can you please pray about it in your own quiet time? But immediately they called a conference call and they said, we're getting on a prayer and we're going to pray with you right here and right now. And they asked what's going on. And then they followed up with me to say, how is he doing? What's going on for him? So these are the people who, in my deepest time of crisis, I thought, these are the people I can trust to hold my pain and to hold something confidential. So in building that network, it's to look for those kind of people who have earned the right to your trust. And should they let you down, you know what, forgive them, don't trust them with your information anymore. And then maybe just a little more wisdom, see if you can build a few more people that you can actually trust, but don't expose them to that level of confidentiality unless they've earned the right to.
Wow, brilliant, 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 Christiana. Great answers, great posture. And I think what you're saying is absolutely fundamentally important. That primarily we don't give up, we keep going, we find the support networks, we share the burden, we share the problem. They say a problem shared is a problem halved, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to talk, and you know, at this point I'd also definitely like to say then sometimes there's a space, and a really good space, and maybe that you do need specific professional talking therapy, especially if there's a lot of complex situations and grief taking place. Christiana, absolutely brilliant. I'm going to open it up to the room because there may be some people in the CAF that would like to talk to you, who may have situations going on that they would just like to hear a bit more from you, if you don't mind. All right. I want to quickly go to Nonclay. You said, say it louder. I'm not sure what point that was there, Nonclay, but could you be kind enough to share and amplify what you were wanting to be echoed louder, please.
Good morning, Dr. Mike. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back. I called, I dialed in the week you were on holiday because I just I dialed in and I said, Queen, where is the group? Because I couldn't believe you want to take a break. So no, what I was talking about is when she, you know, the fact that we people go and we must stop being spiritual about things and just face them, that you say this is happening, you know. I didn't call it on myself. I'm not, by accepting that I'm going through this, I'm not calling it on myself, because that is what I found is my problem when I went and opened up, especially with religious people. I was told, oh, you are confessing you are depressed, you are saying it to yourself, it's your word, or the power of the tongue. So when I was saying this is how I'm feeling, they were saying I am saying it myself, so I'm confirming it. So when Christina said, Christiana, sorry, when she said that, you know, it's not, it's that, you know, face it, it's happening, face it. So
Yeah.
And so many other points.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. It's the fact that acceptance does not mean that you make it okay, and that you're saying this is what it should be. You know, acceptance is the fact that, okay, let's face it, this is what it is. And from this point, we can actually then find clarity. When you don't accept the situation, you're not going to get help, because you know what? It's no, it's not, it's not. You know, it's kind of what you said, Mike, you know, if you need therapy, you go for therapy. And I'm 100% for that, to say some things you can have conversations with and talk to people, but some things you need deeper support. And some things cannot just be faith and you know, let's cover it with scriptures or the Bible. It's, no, this right now, we're going to pray with you. We're going to stand with you. But right now, you need to get more therapy. You need to go to therapy. You need to see a counselor. You need to go to see your GP, explore more options, you know. So no, acceptance, yeah, definitely does not mean you make it okay. It's, let's face it, and then let's do what we need to do.
Brilliant. I mean, I think that Alcoholics Anonymous do it very well. They say, hi, my name is Mike and I'm an alcoholic. You have to accept the condition you're in order to get the treatment. It's like going to the GP and GP says, oh, so how can I help you? And you don't accept the situation, or you want to talk about it, you're not going to get the help you need.
And you're probably not even going to go to the GP because you don't accept that you actually have a problem. And so you're just going to get locked in that cycle.
So Christiana, just one more thing, just to bring some more context to open up this conversation a bit more. You mentioned perhaps that men don't tend to go and ask for help often, whether it be amongst peers or professional help, etc. Do you think that's amplified in cultural context?
Well, I would speak from an African perspective, because I am mostly African, and that's the, well, do you know what? I haven't seen a lot of difference in terms of culturally. I just see it as something that is just prevalent among men. Because interestingly enough, the coaching I do is primarily more focused on women. But substance misuse that I do, my clients are primarily men. And so asking for help is something that they don't do before they get to the point where they pick up the bottle, before they get to the point where they start to experiment because they're trying to take the edge off. They don't ask for help because they think it's associated with being weak. They don't want to ask for help because they don't want other people to know that they are struggling, because they should be keeping it together. They should be holding it together. So going to ask for help feels like they're saying, I'm broken, I can't handle my business, you know, and as a result, they stay where they are. They go through the pain, they struggle, and then eventually they get the bottle, you know. So I've not necessarily seen the difference in terms of whether it's more culturally, but I just see that as men generally, this is something that again and again keeps coming up. the asking for help is quite challenging for them to do, because they're associated with judgment. People are going to judge them, people, or shame, so they tie all of these negative emotions to asking for help, and so they stay locked in the pain.
Brilliant. Yep. Could be true. Brilliant. I'm going to quickly ask David here. As a leader, lots of people come to you, and do you find that resilience is something that seems to be innately missing from a lot of people?
Morning, Mike. Morning, everybody. I think I find that resilience is present, but people don't know how to catalyze it. They don't know how to turn it from potential into something that's active and something that works for them. And I think what I've found is being able to ask the right questions to allow people to almost synchronize the fragments that result from the storm. That acceptance is quite powerful. So asking the right questions that get people to think about how they can exercise power and agency, I find that to be quite important. But I find that most people have that resilience within them, but they're just preoccupied on focusing on the wrong thing, and being able to ask the questions that help them to focus on the right thing starts to get them a bit of mobility towards the outcomes that they want. That's been my experience.
That's brilliant. Christiana, do you want to amplify that or share thoughts?
Yeah, no, totally right, David. It's the fact that we have it. If we find a way to stir it within ourselves and just bring it out and work on it and take the steps that are necessary, because it's so easy to go into victim mode, and it's so easy to tune into the pity party that is going on around you. Now, I'm not taking from anybody the pain that they're going through. I'm not taking away from you the challenge that you're having to face, because I know, especially in these times, people are going through so much challenges. I'm not taking away from you. But if, I keep saying this, you cannot afford to be a victim of life, because life will happen. It's either going to happen to you, or it's going to happen to your neighbor, it's going to happen to the next person. Life will just keep moving on, and it's going to affect one person or the other. It's not personal. It's the fact that as long as you're living and breathing, you're going to go through these challenges. So the question is not, when is it going to be your turn? Because it will be your turn. The question is, when it's my turn, how can I get myself in a position where I am not tuning into the negative stories about how I should maybe stay depressed and why I should be depressed, but how can I refuse to be a victim of life? How can I find a way to just keep moving, irrespective of the fact that I'm going through this and that I will go through this at some point in time?
Brilliant, thank you. Great points. Great points. I want to go to some of the participants in the room, because I think there's some more we can pull out here, because I'd like to know that when we leave this session today and life happens, that we're observing our resilience, and we're bouncing back quicker, stronger, more strategically. We've asked the right questions, we've connected with the right people, and so we're a bit more prepared to cope. All right. So Balaji, good morning to you. I'm going to come to you. Just wondering if you have a perspective, or how you may have coped or managed and demonstrated resilience to bounce back quickly. I'm hoping you can speak to us this morning. I'm sorry for jumping in on you like that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nearly afternoon, everybody. What can I start with? Resilience, a great word, something that I've learned over the last maybe 4 years, and the way it actually came across to me when I had a situation at work which was very challenging, in the sense of management, in the sense of what type of work I was doing, the stress of the work, and the non-existence of support. And quickly I started to feel like, as Christiana said, similar like to a victim, because you feel like you can't do anything about it. You're just being bombarded all over the place with, you know, questions or answers or demands and ways of getting things done, and you're just feeling a little bit immobilized because you can't think straight. You think that you're not good enough to do these things, and you just can't see your way through. And I remember sitting there one day with biggest headache that I don't normally have in my life. And I said to myself, I'm not comfortable with this. I have to see where this is coming from. Is this something that I can actually deal with? Is this something that I can actually move forward from? What can I really do? And it was, as you said, Mike, through all this time that we've been on the clinic, about making those decisions. So I had to make a decision, which was to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't like the way I feel. It's not conclusive to how I want to be. I'm not being productive either. So I took it upon myself as to say, anything that is making me feel that way was to actually make it stop in the right kind of context. So if it was like manager that was beating down on me for silly little things, I became honest with her and told her, don't do that. It makes me uncomfortable. Stop. I am able to be productive if you just don't keep going on at me, you know. And the next thing was to, you know, to speak with friends of mine who have been in the same situation and get that kind of support. And that once I made those decisions as to say, I am not doing this anymore, it was how to back it up. And to back it up was just to say, I'm not the victim. This is not me. I know who I am. I know how I can deal with things in a better way, but I've just got to open my mouth, be honest, and let the person understand where I am coming from, because the more that they kept going on and on at me, the more I was starting to go in my shell or try to people please, and I just felt out of control. So just taking the control back. And also we had a meeting, and which I organized, because I just thought I need to express myself how things have been going on, because when people ask you a question, you should be honest about how you feel and don't pretend that you're okay. Say, no, I'm not okay. No, what you're doing is not all right. And so that you can have the conversation as to where and why you're not feeling that way, and they have an understanding why you feel that way, so something can actually be done about it. So when we had that meeting, that's exactly where I came across, and they were quite shocked about it, because I think they were expecting just me to just bow down to what they wanted me to do and not have that spiritual connection of, this is a real person going through something, and you're just basically saying to me that, get on with it, do this work, it's got to be done, we've got this to do. It was just so cold. So having that one-to-one, they did step back. Then they start producing these courses, which that big word resilience came up, and they said, would I like to go on it? And I thought, yes, anything to get myself away from this attack, because that's how I felt. And then once I went on the course, you know, it just gave me the support to finally just get through things and to understand what I was going through, and to just really take that control back and sit myself up. And I had to every day say, I can do this. I can do this. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I can do this. Whatever they say, it's not going to kill you. Just remember what they say, why they say it. Can you do it? If you can't do it, say you can't, and don't feel, you know, inadequate that you can't do things. So resilience to me was something I had to learn, and I'm still being that way, that it's brought me to a position now when we are going through this situation. I feel a lot stronger. If I didn't go through all those situations, because that's only one scenario, I could be in a different place now, a real different place. But I'm happy to say, going through it, learning from it, makes me more proud to be on this platform right now to say, I feel good to where I'm at, but I just every day keep taking in new support mechanisms, new learnings of how to just cope. And as Christiana says, you just feel like a stronger person. So I'm a stronger person right now. And I thank all those that have helped me with that situation. And I thank you for allowing me to be on this platform.
Wow, Balaji, thank you so much. What a wonderful, let's call it a testimony. It's brilliant. And, you know, I already gave you a hand clap, and I just think it's so good that you are observing your space and taking back the control. Thank you. At the beginning, I gave an analogy of football, and I said some of the most embarrassing episodes in football. But the thing that I'm going to ask you, it's not a poll yet, is has anyone felt like they've scored an own goal in life? Because sometimes COVID happens and external stuff happens, which we have no control over. But then there's stuff that we create and mess up deliberately, monumentally. We make a mess of it. And somehow we've got to bounce back. Just one more show of hands. Yeah, I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, who are we to judge anyone?
Yeah.
Who are we, really? Christiana, let me take this opportunity to say, will you come back?
Yeah.
On another topic. I mean, it's just, it's real talk, real stuff that we're dealing with. And if 96% of us in the room feel a bit more equipped to take that chance and just go again, bounce back, life's kicking us, it's hurting us, but we're just gonna win. I think you need to come back on. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I will come back. But
Excellent.
what I wanted to ask also, just in follow up to what you just said, was I want to get a sense, a feel of what really people are particularly, I don't know how to ask this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I don't know how the response will come back. But what are some challenges? What are the major challenges that you were struggling with at this period, whether it's pandemic, following the pandemic, or post-lockdown? If we were to say, what are your 3 top challenges in this period, what would it be? Whether it's relationship-wise, finances-wise, life-wise, professional-wise. I don't know, but that's just kind of what I thought to say. What are people really struggling with at this point? And I would love to come back, and I would love to speak to those as well. You know, bring you some solution or bring you some insight. But just generally, yeah, I don't know how I'll get that answer anyway, but I thought I'll ask it anyway.
I think that's a good point, Christiana. Ladies and gentlemen, could you just post some of your thoughts in the chat? Maybe some of the things you're struggling with or you're contending with. Let's use that word, because sometimes struggle makes us feel like we're losing. But contending means we're in the battle, we're still giving it some. All right, so just post some of the stress points, and then we can get some experts in to even talk to those critical pieces. So brilliant. Christiana, whilst they're posting, I've got someone who is also a coach, and I'd just like to ask her how she deals with resilience or helps her clients. So Rox is saying, she's from the DFE also, who has helped sponsor this conversation. So Rox, how do you help clients deal with resilience? What's your strategy?
Hi, Mike. Thank you, Christiana. Great session. I think there was something that you touched on and others have too. And I think that's the sort of key really, which is that storms will come and you're never going to be in a situation where you're not going to be without storms. And knowing that you might have gone through one particular situation, but know that if it comes again, you haven't failed. Allow yourself to acknowledge where you are right now and get back up again, because you only have two choices in life. You can either let it overwhelm you, or you can work with what you have in your hands. And so that's what I do with my clients, is just to say, well, what are the choices that you have? And we all have resilience within us. It's just knowing how to tap into it. And that's what I say to my clients.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rox. So look at the choices that you have. And, you know, there's a song that I've been listening to sort of like constantly in the last couple of days. It's been sung by a number of people, including Nina Simone, and it's called Everything Must Change. I don't know if you know that song. One day I'll play it. One day I might sing it for you. I might. But everything changes. Everything must change. You know, the young become the old. Mysteries even unfold. It's just a matter of time. And what I'm learning is that because change can be forced upon us, we mustn't resent the change. And we can't resist change. We just have to work with change. And so that is one of the things that you could do to build resilience, is to be quite deliberate about the things that have changed, which, especially the ones you have no control over. And one of our first sessions, Bishop Mike Royal came in and he spoke about change and the change curve. So it might be worth if we could get that video back up. I'm not sure if it's up on our in our YouTube channel yet, but it's fantastic presentation. It'd be worth watching because change is happening, ladies and gentlemen. And I think we should just adapt, shift, lean into it, accept it, and build some resilience by creating good networks, reprogramming our minds, bear the burden, lift the weight, and keep going. And I believe that we have the capacity and the perspicacity to do that. So thank you. I just want to ask a few more people questions. Madhu, you've posted a few things. Madhu, is there something you would like to share with us in how you've managed with resilience? In the past, you've mentioned some of your personal story. How do you keep bouncing back, Madhu? What's your strategy?
You know what? I mean, I'm just human, so sometimes sometimes I know I am bouncing back or making a bit of progress, but other times it feels like you're kind of sliding back too, because to be honest, the kind of the degree of challenge that we're all facing now is just mind-boggling, and new things come up every day. I mean, I just heard yesterday my cousin's grandfather passed away after a long illness, and now the extended family is in shock and stuff. And I guess, I don't know what to say. I mean, the things that have helped me, obviously a platform like this really, really helps to share our feelings of what we're going through. Personally, I find writing is very helpful, because I don't like most people, sometimes you just get off track and you're really I'm really unfocused, and then just to get back to feeling more grounded, just opening up a book, reading and writing really do help. Just putting my thoughts down and my feelings down on paper. And there are disappointments too, like your friends who you're really close to, and suddenly they don't want to talk to you through the pandemic. Their way of dealing with this is just to message you, and that can be difficult as well. Sometimes it's quite disappointing. I would say I'm just like anybody else. Sometimes I feel quite resilient, very resilient, and other times I feel like, wow, it is a bit overwhelming. And then you just have to think about what you've been learning, like breathing, meditation, going for a walk. These kind of things really do help.
Brilliant, Madhu, and well said. And as I said at the beginning, it becomes a phenomenon when we turn up again. It's like we're breaking all the rules. to be here one more day. And that's where we add that to our gratitude list. I'm still here. I've got an opportunity to bounce back and be better than I was before. So brilliant. Keep going, Madhu. Keep going. You're an inspiration. Thank you.
Mike, it's so important what Matthew said, because sometimes you're not always going to feel on top. You know, there's sometimes you're just going to be tired, and sometimes there'll be down days. But the fact that you have down days does not negate all of the success that you've made. And it does not mean you cannot afford to have down days because now you're trying to be positive and stay motivated. When you feel like you need to take a break, it's important to give yourself that break and stop. And you know what? Have the down day, and then you get back onto it again. Start with small goals, take the little goals. So we shouldn't have to feel like we need to be Superman and Superwoman all the time. You know, there will be down days, and it's important to honor that in yourself when you experience it, when you feel it, and stop. Give your body, give your mind the rest that it needs, recoup, and then start again. Start even if it's a little step. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm just looking at some of the the chats, and it's varied. People are going through different things, from distance, away from family and friends and loved ones, to redundancies. That's a big one. Marks and Spencer's announced 7,000 jobs to go. John Lewis has shut 8 of their stores. That's the big chains, who has reserves and deep pockets. And then, you know, what about the guy who has the corner shop? What about the person who's struggling? There's some issues that are affecting life as we know it. And if you get made redundant from your quote unquote dream job, how do you bounce back? So someone here said the strength to start again. And I think you've mentioned some of that, Christiana, where you have to honor the change. You have to honor what's happened. You have to accept it. And then I'm just wondering, how do we gather that momentum, that deep breath, that energy to start again? I'm just wondering if I'm hoping, I'm jumping, throwing you in the deep end here, and I'm hoping you can speak to us this morning. Vinette Thomas, good morning to you. I'm just wondering if you have a thought, and then I'll come straight after you, Vinette, to David. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Welcome.
Welcome. This is probably my second time on your...
That's right, yes.
And it's been really, really great and helpful. I've been passed on to loads of people. My take is, I'm listening, and I thought, a lot of these things I do already, so I'm obviously on the right track. I have got a really great circle of friends. I'm really blessed. I always say to people, you need to get a good support network around you because it makes a difference. And I know I can call on them for anything. And I've also got another sort of group of friends that I can just go out with. I know I can just call them and we can just go out somewhere. And that, because I'm a very social person, so the lockdown has really affected me in that way, because I like to go out and enjoy myself. I said it, a comment I made in my Facebook page the day was, I just feel I want to go out for a big blowout. I don't know. And by that, I mean, just go dancing, just go and have a good time, because I've kind of like missed that in lockdown, because you can't really dance on your own on a Zoom thing. It's just not the same. So all those little things you miss, but I'm grateful that I can do that. I also feel a bit guilty because I can work from home, and there's lots of my friends who lost their jobs, or the family members that we couldn't attend funerals because of the lockdown. It's not the same looking over at a Zoom thing. So all the rituals we do as Black people in the Caribbean community, that's a closure when you go to say your goodbyes to someone. That's been really difficult. I find that across the board, a lot of my friends, you've all said the same thing about that one. It's just really difficult. They say goodbye to someone. You can't go and console the family because you're all used to going around to their house, consoling them, being there for them, night. All of those things, it's just gone. And that's been that's been a struggle. I must admit, one of the hardest ones in this pandemic. And the pandemic itself, for me, I do have anxiety about, is it safe? Even though I do try to make myself go out, I try to put a plan in my head, go out once a week or go out once a month, do something to get myself out of the house, because I'm so used to being in my house, in the garden, do my exercises. It's wonderful. I don't even want to go back to work, to be truthful, but you've got to. But all of what you said is all the things that I am doing, and I didn't realize those are the things that has been helping me, and I didn't realize it. Now I realize I can now tell my friends and people, get yourself friends, good friends around you. I do believe in God and all that. I've got my religious friends, but I do find sometimes quoting the scripture and Bible only is not always going to work. You need practical things to do, practical solutions. What Christina's in solutions. And remember also, Christina, the acceptance part is very, very true. There's a lot of people out there who just won't accept what is going on. They go through the grieving process, but they still won't accept. Yeah. It's not your fault. Everything's happened. It's just life. Life is going to go up and down. It's not a straight curve. You're going to constantly get things thrown at you. It's how you deal with it. And there's some people out there just, I don't know if it's stubbornness, I don't know what it is. They're trying to get back what they had. Yeah. And it's hard to tell somebody, you need to let go and just accept where you are, and then you can heal so you can move forward. And that's a message I try to get through to some people, but a lot of people, they just resist it and resist it and resist it, and they wonder why they keep going back, hitting that brick wall. So I'd like to know, how do you just let them come to that conclusion themselves and just stick with them? What would you do, Christina, on that sort of thing?
Thank you so much. Your contribution was so good. Vanette, yeah. No, thank you. Listen, I know what you're talking about, and I know it a lot. And being a person of faith, I have found that the faith community are the hardest to come to terms with this acceptance. So I have been in situations where I'm saying to someone, listen, you actually need to go to the doctor, or you need therapy. You need to actually do this. And they're throwing scriptures at me. I said, I get it. I'm with you. I'm praying for you. I believe in healing. But right now, this situation needs some practical work. You need to go to a therapist. And they won't accept that, right? So unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. It's like the old proverb that says, you can take a horse to the river, but you cannot force it to drink. You just need to, while you can, as long as they're not draining on you, right? But as long as you can, just stay there and just keep saying it back to them. Just help them see that this is important, and that, accepting the situation does not mean you make it okay. And that's what people mix up, is the fact that they feel that by accepting it, I'm saying this is my lot. This is I'm making it okay. No, you're not making it okay. You're just being honest with how you're feeling, what's going on. When you do that, then you can heal quickly. Then you can bounce back. Then you can be resilient. Because if you don't accept it, you're not even going to go to the doctor. So no, unfortunately, just stay there with them, encourage them. If they begin to become a drain, just give them a space, because you need to keep yourself well and whole and centered. Yeah, that's definitely my advice.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Yeah. Great question, Vinette, and thanks, Christiana. David, your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Michael, just a quick contribution to something that I heard. I think it was Madhu, and talked about friends during the pandemic not being present and available. And the thought that came to me was a simple one, really, which is that actually sometimes we get distracted by the storm. That actually the storm is a gift, because what the storm reveals is the fragility and the fickleness of our friendships, which is actually greater than the storm. And so sometimes we go through things in life that appear to be a storm, but when we actually learn the lessons, we realize that instead of it being a storm, it's actually something that gives us a greater insight to truth or a greater depth of relationships. So I've been through things and I've said to myself, okay, I know X amount of people, I won't talk to that person anymore. Not because I'm offended with them, but because the journey has come to an end. But if the storm never arrived, I would have been misled into thinking that there was something more substantial that existed between us than what actually did. And I thank God for the storm that came, because the storm brought to the surface the reality of something that I may not have wanted to face, or something that I didn't have a clue was in exit. So I'm gonna say, don't get distracted by the storm, because sometimes the purpose of the storm is not to actually destroy us, but to bring to the surface those things that we wouldn't see in normal circumstances. So a brilliant sailor doesn't get their stripes sailing on a smooth sea. It's the sailor that can navigate the ship in torrential conditions that actually becomes the master sailor. And I think there's something there for me, and there's something there for all of us.
Well said, man. Well said, well said, well said. And remember, guys, the storm doesn't last forever. The storm will pass. And it comes to a point where, like David just said, people can read weather conditions. It comes to a point in your life when you'll be able to observe when a storm is coming. Even a cat can predict when it's going to thunder. They often go and shelter before it starts thundering. They sense it. And maybe this is a moment for us to heighten our awareness and be aware that storms come, but after the storm, there's a calm. You know what I mean? And then we can rebuild in that space of calmness. So be strong, be mindful, and be able to rebound quickly. So we've got about 9 more minutes. Is there anyone else that would like to, I can pick on people as I do, but is there anyone that would like to add a point or ask Christina a question? I think Mother Maloney, did you put your hand up, please? If you could unmute yourself and then ask your question, please. You're muted. I'm going to try and unmute you on my side. Yep, please go ahead now, Mother Maloney. Good morning to you.
Okay. Good morning. I'm all the way from Nairobi, and I am not young. And in my life, I have lived through the word resilience, because it is a very, very strong word, and one has to be very, very strong to manage it. In my life, I've managed it, but in my older years now, and with this corona that has brought all sorts of difficulties, I think one has to go to religion, to trust in their faith, to be strong, and family. I feel it's God first, family and friends, because half the time you feel lonely, the days that you feel lonely, you feel the only one you can talk to is God. And next is the one next to you, family. And next is friends. So I'm talking as an older person and also a person who gives ideas to my children. They come to me very, very strongly, telling me, Mom, you're not old. Age is just a number. But I feel like telling them, reach my age, reach plus 70, because plus 70 is not a young age. You fight with that resilience. So it's for the young to exercise it, but the old, we have to suffer, and especially during this corona days. But the speaker today, I enjoyed her very much. She's just like my daughter. Very strong words, and I ask her to keep it up. give us that inspiration. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Mother Maloney. Thank you for joining us all the way in Kenya. What's the time there?
It is 2:20.
Oh, wonderful. So you
Afternoon.
enjoy your afternoon. And thank you
Yes,
for
very much.
sharing your thoughts with us this
Thank you.
morning. Really do appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay,
You're
so...
doing a good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right. Well, Christina, look, we've got 5 minutes. Is there anything you want to leave us with that you said a lot, and I did promise you'll be speaking for at least an hour. Is there anything that you want to leave with us so that we can face tomorrow? We can face later on today, the stuff that we know is happening because we see the storm. We're in the storm. And how do we batten down our hatches? How do we keep going? How do we bounce back? I need some help.
Yeah, just a reminder that it's not personal and that, you know, storms will happen. Storms will definitely happen. I remember that there was a time in my younger years, now I know so much more better now, where I thought that because I was a person of faith and I trusted Jesus, that I wasn't really going to go through storms because somehow God was going to cover me and I was going to be okay. And life was going to be smooth and fine. But I realize now that that's even part of the process in my work with God to bring me to maturity and working me patience and perseverance. So I know now that storms will come. And so I want to say to everybody, it's not personal and nothing is going to cover you or nothing is going to shield you from storms. They will happen, but it's about what do you do when they happen? So first they will happen. Come to terms with that, make peace with that storms will come. And then also when it does come, it's okay to hurt, it's okay to grieve, it's okay to feel pain, and please express it, feel it, cry if you need to, talk through it if you want to, go to therapy if you need to, you know, just express, experience the pain, feel the pain, and let it just have its way and get out of you. Otherwise, it's going to come out another way, whether it's in form of depression, anxiety, or just aggression, or just something unhealthy. So just grieve if you need to, and then start with baby steps. Whatever you need to rebuild, whether it's your finances, whether it's looking for a new job, getting a new qualification, a new relationship, having that conversation with the child, just start with baby steps. And that's how you get to the other side. And when it's all said and done, when you look back, you will find out, I can't remember who shared the story about her working environment that was toxic. But then because she went through that difficulty and that challenge, now when she experienced a pandemic, she was able to adjust better. And that's really what happens. When you go through a challenging time and take those little baby steps and go through the process, when you get to another difficult season, you'll be so much better able to adapt. You will find your way. You'll be able to make something, you'll be able to create something beautiful out of the situation because you went through a challenging period already and because you learned how to take baby steps and make it. So you're going to be okay. And we're all in this together. You're not alone. It's not just something that happens to you. It's something that happens to all of us. And you can absolutely recover and recover better.
Brilliant. Now, at the beginning of today's session, I had a statement and you've summarized it perfectly. You said it's not personal. And my statement was adversity doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
It doesn't discriminate. It happens to us all. So my final question to you, Christiana, which will help those of us who are parents or grandparents who may have young children, especially those under 5, where those formative behaviors are being shaped. How can we build some childhood resilience? How do we build resilience? A better way of answering the question, how do we build resilience in children?
I think as much as they can comprehend in that age, share some of your own experiences with them, of maybe a time when you were in school, You know, when someone tried to bully you and you know, this is what you did not retaliate, but you spoke up for yourself and you stood up for yourself, and, you know, and the situation worked out okay, or you came out the other way stronger and they didn't bully anymore. So use those kind of examples depending on their age. My daughter is 14, so we are now at the point where we're sharing with her our challenges from when we were in Nigeria, from just having to navigate financial challenges and how we've made it. So we share our journey with her, and we shared it from when she was little. And so we just let her see that life is not all roses. And so that when she experiences her own challenge, whether it's a bully in school or whether it's the little child on the playground who was just being mean or something, so that when they experience that, they know, okay, I'm gonna be okay. This is how I should stand up for myself. So that will primarily be my way. Don't try to shield children from saying, I don't want them to go through, know, or experience, or have an understanding of the trauma I went through. It was so traumatic for me. So now I'm going to shield them. I'm not going to tell them what it is. No, just share your own little stories of how you struggle and how you came out on the other side. And that's how you begin to build it. And just talking with them about what's happening in life generally, the real world we live in, how other people are struggling. So if you have nothing to relate to, it's, well, look at this, people are struggling. We have to go to food bank. We have to support other families. And that's how you do it.
Brilliant. Christiana, it's fantastic. Your contribution has stimulated us, it's motivated us, it's challenged us to think well, live well, and be well, especially in this difficult situation, navigating turbulent storms. And, you know, some of us are just afraid of the thunder, and it's not even rained yet. So we're building up some strength to manage difficult situations. So I thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to give Christiana the biggest round of applause you can by emojis, or if you want to clap on video, then just do that. It was excellent. Thank you so much for your participation and information today. And ladies and gentlemen, I also want to draw to your attention, we're going to be creating some bite-sized productions that we will be sharing with you, conversations that you can have with your children during COVID, how to manage difficult situations, building resilience, looking at family bonding kits, and so on and so forth. So watch this space. You'll be getting some information from us shortly. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us. To all our first-time visitors or second-time visitors, hope you're finding us useful. Tell someone else. And, you know, I think there's a lot of good information in this space. So once again, think well, live well, be well, and let's look forward to Transformational Thursday. Christiana, 10 out of 10. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe, wonderful, and prosperous day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.